What if the MILGRAM cause was tried in a real court? Except they live in Australia for some odd reason. What's up, everybody, and today we'll be discussing what each MILGRAM character would get if they were tried under a regular justice system and not just the Vocaloid hive mind. Some guy on Tumblr made a post explaining how they'd all be forgiven, but I don't know what country's laws they base their research off of, because it's not Australia. Anyway, the short answer is everyone is guilty except for Yuno, Amane, and Makoto. The long answer is thank you so much for hearing me ramble about law. Some of my teachers know about me reading through a bunch of legislations before doing research for this video, so that sure is interesting. So, let's get into it. Number 1. Heruka Guilty. The law states that having a mental disorder or intellectual disability can only excuse crime if the criminal is unaware of their actions. I'm very bad at reading people, especially Heruka, so I could be very wrong, but I'm pretty sure Heruka knew what he was doing, hence making him guilty of homicide and animal abuse, both of which are obviously very illegal. As for the suicide theory, suicide isn't necessarily illegal, but there are cases involving suicide. We'll explain those in later sections. Murder is punishable by a life sentence, so sorry, Heruka. Innocent. Yeah, abortion's legal. That's it. Futaba Guilty. He would be charged, just not for murder. The actual murder Futaba committed was indirect and therefore not really considered murder under any laws. But what he'd really get arrested for is cyberbullying and also aiding and abetting a suicide. The penalty for this is imprisonment for 5 years. Guilty. Yeah, she's really screwed. Killing her classmate does no one any good. In Australia, the age of criminal responsibility is 10, so Moo can't even use her age to defend herself. Basically, Rose's gonna be jailed for life. But at least Heruka can keep her company, you know? Okay, Shido Guilty. Quick disclaimer, this is disregarding the idea that he kills healthy patients on purpose, because honestly, that's just an obvious guilty. Even if he only did euthanasia on brain-dead patients, it's still not legal. Yes, euthanasia is legal in Australia, but only under certain conditions. The ones that Shido doesn't follow are that the patient must be in a condition where they can give consent, not their family members, and that they must be Australian citizens. I'm pretty sure this didn't apply to Shido's patients, and therefore he would end up getting charged with homicide. But then there's also Shido's most horrific crime that he committed. The horrible crime of eating pomegranate with a fork. This crime can be punishable by death and then getting sent to Texas. Not particularly in that order. I know death sentence doesn't exist in Australia, but it does now because that crime was just way too atrocious. Maehara Guilty, and it physically pains me to say this, but yes, she would be charged with aiding and abetting a suicide, even though she probably didn't mean to. The law isn't clear on how someone can aid or abet a suicide, so maybe Moppy could make it out if she had, like, a really good lawyer. Under the double suicide theory, she would still have the same charge, and therefore she would be in prison for 5 years. Kazui Guilty. Okay, me very personally, I think it's a huge stretch to say that Kazui even caused Hiroko's death, but my personal opinion means nothing. So he probably does have a better chance of making it up than Moppy, because I think he just had less of an influence. No, but in the end, his surface level crime was essentially the same as Maharu's, so that's unfortunate. Amay Innocent. Finally, someone who's actually forgiven. I did say the age of criminal responsibility is 10, but Amay doesn't need to use her age to defend herself in court. Her murder would be considered self-defense as long as the conduct is necessary to protect herself or another person, which essentially she did. Amane was in a situation where it was impossible for her to get help by the police or anything, so murder was basically the only option to prevent her from getting relentlessly hurt. While Amane wasn't in immediate danger at the time of her crime, with the horrific abuse she was subjected to, she can probably claim self-defense. Makoto Innocent. Quick disclaimer, when referring to Makoto's alters, I use colors when referring to them because I think it makes it easier. Here's the infographic. Considering Aka's the killer, you'd already have the answer from Heruka's section. Yes, he would be forgiven because Aoi is unaware of Aka's doings, and Aoi's the host. If Aoi is the killer, then I have no clue what will happen. I'm not an expert on this. I'm not a judge. But yep, that is it. Number 10. Koko Guilty. But wasn't Amane able to claim self-defense? Koko could claim self-defense to an extent. If you read the article in deep cover, you would know that the annoying CEO guy claims she caused more injuries than necessary. If someone applies excessive force while defending themselves, they will be charged with manslaughter and imprisoned 25 years. But maybe the annoying CEO guy was just lying to make her look bad. You never know. In conclusion, and that's it. That's the video. There wasn't much. Moral of the story, the law has no mercy, I have too much free time, and Amane Momose is innocent. Now look, if you still expect more, maybe we might want to deep dive into the criminal records of the guards. But that's a story for never.